I locked a man in my office, believing he was a playboy, but he changed my life forever. I will never forget the chaos of that day. It started like any other Tuesday, but somehow the air was charged, static. My heart raced as I locked the door, not knowing that behind me stood a man who would shatter everything I thought I knew. He was dressed in a crisp designer suit, the kind that screams wealth without saying a word. Dark hair fell messily over his forehead. But it was his piercing blue eyes that drew me in, like a moth to a flame. They shimmered with secrets, and I couldn't help but feel a mix of intrigue and fear. I had heard the rumors. The lavish parties, the countless women, the infamous escapades that painted him as a heartbreaker. To my colleagues, he was just a playboy. A devil-may-care charmer that waltzed through life like it was a game. But in that moment, when he stepped into my office, I felt more like a mouse cornered by a cat. The tension was thick. My fingers trembled as I cursed my decision to confront him alone. I wanted answers, and I needed to know, was he really who they said he was? My mind raced, piecing together whispered secrets and the scoffs of disapproval from friends. Stay away from him, he's trouble. But trouble had a way of pulling me in, like a gravitational force I couldn't resist. Each second stretched on, a stretched rubber band ready to snap. Noise filtered in from the bustling city outside, a mockery to the silence that enveloped us. My heart pounded against my chest, a frantic drum echoing in my ears. His gaze was unwavering, challenging, almost daring me to break the tense silence. Suddenly, he laughed, a low, rich sound that sent chills down my spine. You have no idea what you're getting into. His lips curled into a half-smile, but I saw something deeper. A vulnerability hidden beneath the bravado. My stubborn questions battled with an unexpected urge to understand his world. But what pulled me closer also whispered fears. The shadows in his eyes hinted at something darker. Was he a villain or just misunderstood? Did I really want to discover the truth? Could there be more to this man than the tales I had been told? And then, just as I thought I'd plucked up the courage to ask, the lights flickered above us, the room plunging into darkness. My heart leapt to my throat as I fumbled for my phone. The dim light illuminated his face, now shadowed, yet somehow more captivating. What was that? I gasped, barely breathing. Chaos, he replied, his voice barely above a whisper, sending shivers through me. And it's just begun. My hands trembled as I glanced around the room, anxiety coiling tighter in my stomach. A loud crash echoed from the hallway. My breath quickened. What had I done? I had locked a man in my office and now I was trapped. The door rattled, and all I could think was I really ready to face what was behind it? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The darkness wrapped around us like a thick fog, disorienting and suffocating. My pulse vibrated in my ears as the chaos swirled beyond the confines of my office. I felt the weight of uncertainty press down on my chest, but as the door rattled again, its urgency ignited an instinct most primal within me: flight. Here I was, seemingly caged with a man notorious for his reckless charm, and yet, somehow, I couldn't bring myself to distance myself from him. The crash echoed once more, a shelf toppling over, sending whatever lay atop crashing to the ground. I took an involuntary step back, my fingers gripping the edge of my desk for support. In the disarray of my thoughts, a flicker of fear mixed with intrigue. What is happening? I gasped, the quiver in my voice betraying my panic. But he remained still, calm in the storm, his blue eyes glinting in the sliver of light from my phone. Stay close to me. "I'll protect you," he said, his voice commanding, yet laced with an oddly soft reassurance. I wanted to snort at the irony. I was supposed to protect myself from him, not the other way around. But in that moment, a bolt of something I hadn't anticipated coursed through me. Hope. For a fleeting instant, the allure of his steadfastness overshadowed the shadows lurking just outside our sanctuary. Can he really be a hero? I watched him. It was as if he wore his past like a jacket, heavy, worn, with patches of pain stitched in. "What are you hiding?" I found myself asking before I could lose my nerve. The tension snapped tight, like a bowstring, and for a moment, I felt the air still between us. "Everything," he answered, his gaze dropping, as if his secrets were too raw for even the dim light to witness. "But so do you. We all do." As he spoke, the door behind me rattled again, more violently this time, as if testing the strength of the lock I had so carelessly engaged. I took a half-step back, feeling the cool wood of the desk bite into my palms as I debated the consequences of the action I was contemplating unlocking the door. Suddenly, a shrill beeping sliced through the air, coming from my office phone. I instinctively reached for it, but he caught my wrist gently. "No. It could be a trap." His proximity ignited a rush of heat that made my breath hitch. "What do you mean?" I whispered, once more looking into those depths of indigo. "What do you know?" He hesitated, eyes narrowing as he searched for words that felt more like broken glass than honest communication. "There are things unfolding here, things that are bigger than you or me. They want something." "Who?" I pressed, my heart hammering like a war drum, urging me to break free of the need to recognize that voice hesitating on the other end of the phone. "People who see chaos as an opportunity." Fear clawed at the edges of my resolve. I couldn't shake the realization that I had stepped into something unknowingly dangerous. "What do you mean, chaos? Is this because of you?" The truth was a weight I couldn't comprehend. He rubbed a hand over the back of his neck, an unconscious gesture of vulnerability. "I made choices. Dangerous ones. It draws attention." The next crash was closer, making me jump as if electrified. I was torn between my instincts to flee and my desperate need to understand. The man I had locked away with me was more than a playboy. He was a storm, and I was standing on the precipice of its eye. Suddenly, I felt a gentle touch on my arm as he stepped closer, bridging the distance. "Listen to me. Whatever you think you know about me, forget it. There's something here, in this moment, that matters more." His voice enveloped me, urgent yet strangely soothing, igniting a sense of solidarity. But that moment was interrupted by a loud thud echoing from beyond our barricade. My breath quickened as the door rattled once more and then suddenly flung open, light spilling in, flooding the dim sanctuary of my office, casting long shadows against the walls. I gasped. Standing in the doorway was not the expected threat, but a figure in a plain uniform, a police officer. "Ma'am. Are you all right? We've heard reports of disturbances in this building." I opened my mouth to speak, to tell him everything, but my eyes flickered to the man beside me. His expression shifted, something inscrutable and fierce lurking just beneath the surface, as he shifted subtly to block me from the officer's sight. "Get out of here, it's safe now," he commanded softly to me, his face conflicted, betraying a sense of alarm. For a heartbeat, I hesitated, the weight of his eyes anchored my feet in place. The officer's voice broke the silence again, insistent. "Ma'am, you need to come with me." And in that moment, I was faced with a choice, to embrace the safety of the unknown, or to step into the chaos I had just begun to unravel, with a man who had shifted the very axis of my life. Before I could move, he whispered urgently, "Trust me." And with that, the decision loomed heavy in the air, threatening to pull apart not just the fabric of my reality, but the heart that was slowly beginning to understand that hope could blossom amidst the chaos. The officer's gaze flickered between me and the man who had reshaped my very existence within minutes. Each tick of the clock seemed to magnify the urgency of the moment as I grappled with the raging conflict in my chest. I could remain here, standing on the precipice of a choice, or I could leap into the unknown. Ma'am, please. The officer's tone softened, carrying the weight of concern as he took a step closer. If there's danger, we need to evacuate now. But when I turned to look at him, the man beside me held my gaze hostage with a palpable intensity. You don't know what you're getting into, he said, his voice low and urgent, like a lifeline thrown out into stormy seas. Not yet. In that moment, the choice became agonizing. Here was safety, an outline of comfort against the horrors lurking beyond this door, but standing close to him felt like standing at the edge of a precipice, teetering dangerously close to a fall that may yet be exhilarating. A connection sparked, unpredictable yet familiar, urging me to choose passion over reason. Get out of here, he said, edging closer to me, his warmth enveloping as he pressed against my shoulder. You have to trust me. The officer, oblivious to the layers of fear and unspoken promises hanging in the air, cleared his throat. Ma'am, you can't stay here. I can help you, but not if you're in danger. I glanced between them. One held the safety of the world outside my office while the other held the tempest inside. My fingers curled into fists, searching for clarity while a storm brewed within, the clamorous thoughts overwhelming as I strove to decipher motives and intentions. I think I need to go. The words spilled from my mouth like a confession, a fracture of certainty amidst creeping dread. But just as I took a half-step towards the officer, the man's hand shot out, clasping mine with a grip that was both fierce and desperate. No. Please, don't go. The plea echoed around us, deeper than any emotion I'd felt before. Time seemed to pause, stretching out the fabric of our connection as I looked into his eyes, searching for humanity amid the chaos. For a fleeting moment, I saw not just fear, but vulnerability, a soul wrestling with demons far greater than frustration. Why? I asked, the breath hitching in my throat, conflicted between wanting to protect him and needing to save myself. What are you really afraid of? He clenched his jaw, brow knitted in frustration as if he was battling a war within himself. That they'll use you to get to me. Who? The question felt raw on my tongue, and even as I spoke it, uncertainty festered underneath. There were layers of the truth yet to uncover, and I must probe beneath the murky surface. His silence screamed louder than anything he could have uttered, and the officer's impatience surged beside us, his urgency pouring like rain. Ma'am, now. Just tell me, I implored softly, knowing he had the power to change the course of my actions. In that moment, I was a ship caught between two shores, unsure if my heart wished to find safe land or to risk the storm. He began, but then his eyes flicked to the doorway where shadows loomed, tension crackling in the air as he realized we were running out of time. They're coming, he said, voice low and clipped, tugging at the thread of fear within me. I want to let them take you. In that flicker of sincerity, the officer's voice rang out again, more insistent now. Ma'am, you need to make a decision right now. Something inside me twisted, sensing the weight of culpability in every second of hesitation. I could choose the officer, the promise of salvation and escape from the tempest that swirled around us, or I could take a chance on him, the man who claimed he wanted to protect me but enveloped himself in shadows I barely understood. With rising urgency in my chest, I felt that bolt of hope leap again, whispering of possibility. I tore my gaze from the officer, willing my heart to calm, seeking solace in the heart of the chaos next to me. If you don't let me go, then maybe we can fight together. His blue eyes ignited. With something akin to relief, a subtle affirmation that ran deeper than the surface of my skin. But just as he began to say something, an echoing crash resounded behind the officer, sending tremors through the floor beneath us. Get back! The officer yelled, throwing himself into a protective stance. The door flung open wider, followed by a choking fog that seeped into our haven, dark and foreboding. Figures cloaked in black surged into the light, silhouetted threats amid our flickering sanctuary. Everything shifted in an excruciating heartbeat. The officer's face tumbled into a mask of horror, and as he began drawing his weapon, I felt the heat of adrenaline surge, propelling me toward a choice I couldn't comprehend. "Run!" the man shouted, suddenly abandoning his previous grasp on my hand, shoving me back toward the barricaded corner of my office. "Get out of here now!" But as I turned to flee, my feet rooted in place, a lingering question clawed at my mind: was I running from the chaos, or was I running toward a fraying bond built against a backdrop of uncertainty and unvoiced fears? And just before the world turned to shattering chaos, I glimpsed the bruised look in his eyes, and I knew my heart had already made its choice. The room quaked as the figures swarmed inside, their presence a chaotic whirl of surging energy, unfurling shadows that danced lasciviously in the dim light. The first to enter, a woman with cold, calculating eyes, held a glinting firearm with alarming ease. It was a moment that would be etched into my memory forever, a collision of fear and adrenaline, where reality twisted in ways I never imagined possible. That I skidded backward, pressing against the wall, heart pounding like an insistent drum, my breath catching as terror wrapped its icy fingers around my throat. The man stood in front of me, a fiercely protective barricade. "No!" he shouted again, his voice filled with a protective rage as he eyed the intruders. "You won't hurt her. They didn't come for him." The realization crashed over me like a wave, pulling me under. I was the bait. I was the trump card that could leverage whatever dark game was unfolding around us. My heart sank, a stone cast into the depths of a turbulent sea. "Let her go, and no one gets hurt," the woman said, her voice silky smooth yet laced with threat, as she leveled her weapon at him. "You're out of your league, sweetheart. Just hand her over, and we'll make this all go away." "No!" I cried, desperate and hysterical, not sure which half-baked fantasy I was hoping for, to rally the warrior in front of me or to untangle myself from this nightmare. "I'm not going with you." "Stay quiet," she snapped, shifting her gaze to me, venom drizzling from her words. "You have no idea what you're doing. He's using you." The bullet of her accusation struck home, and I flinched, the shadows of doubt creeping back in. I thought of the time I first met him, the charm that dripped from his words, making my pulse race. It had all felt too smooth, too polished to be real, but then I looked at him, and I saw past the suave exterior to the person beneath, a man who had stepped into the line of danger for me, a stranger willing to fight against insurmountable odds. "Move!" he yelled to me, his voice both a roar of command and a timid plea, as he shifted slightly to place himself between me and the looming threat. "They'll use you as leverage against me, and I won't let that happen." In that frantic moment, I realized the choices I thought I had were far more complicated than I anticipated. I wanted to stand resolutely beside him, yet fear coiled tight around my tendency to succumb to self-preservation. The officer's weapon was still drawn, and I held no delusions about the gravity of the moment. They would kill us without a second thought if it served their purpose. "Please," he breathed, the raw vulnerability of his voice breaking through the chaos. "Trust me." Trust. It was a word that echoed through the corridors of my mind, both comforting and terrifying. I thought the world of him, but I knew so little. The difference between his truth and the lies I was told played a complex symphony in my heart. The figures advanced, the tension thickened in the air, crackling as it climbed to a suffocating crescendo. My eyes darted frantically to the door, wondering if rushing past them was an option, if seeking an escape meant abandoning the man who now stood like a lighthouse in my storm. Suddenly, a thought struck like a lightning bolt. I had the keys to my own escape, both literally and metaphorically. "If you think I'm going with you," I blurted out, trying to draw the attention back on me, "you'll have to take him out first." The woman's lips twisted into a sneer, but for one fraction of a heartbeat, I saw uncertainty flash in her eyes. Had I managed to exploit a crack in her armor, an opening I could slip through? The man beside me nodded slightly, a flicker of pride sparking behind his fear. "Stop!" the woman commanded, her gun wavering ever so slightly as she regarded me, caught between disbelief and irritation. That I took a deep breath, bolstered by sheer audacity. "Let him go, and I'll walk out with you." If you think he's a problem, I'll be your leverage. My voice trembled slightly but still resonated with a strength I didn't fully feel. No. He shouted, voice raw as anguish twisted through his expression. Don't you dare. But the truth was, I didn't think he could really protect me, not against an onslaught like this, not when the danger loomed so large. The woman smirked, but it wasn't the victory she had hoped for. You think you're clever, don't you? She laughed, but annoyance flickered behind her mask, shadows curling around her calm demeanor as she glanced toward her compatriots. The world isn't as black and white as you think. If I had struck a nerve, it was the exhilarating rush I needed. There was power in uncertainty, and even the strongest could waver when faced with unexpected human defiance. Now! He shouted again, and he lunged toward me, but the chaos then erupted in a cacophonous clash as gunshots rang out, echoing through the confined space. In that moment of blind instinct, I dove forward, propelled by something deeper than fear, not survival, but a desperate hope that perhaps, together, we could find a way through. I felt the pressure of his hand gripping my wrist, wrenching me away as the world plunged into a swirling chaos of noise and confusion, and just before all sensation slipped into a haze, I caught a glimpse of her eyes narrowing, an unspoken revelation dawning upon her features. We were no longer simply caught in the crossfire. In that fleeting moment, I witnessed betrayal settle into her depths, a vicious realization that something was unfolding, a truth lurking in the corners, waiting to surface. Yet just as I thought we were escaping, a searing pain curled around my arm. Distantly, I registered the shallow gasp escaping my lips as the darkness began to veer into focus, my heart flickering against the tumult. The world slipped away, drawing me into an abyss that felt impossible to navigate, and as consciousness began to waver, I knew this was only the beginning. The heart of my storm was only just taking shape. The sharp sting in my arm flared before I could fully comprehend the situation. I stumbled forward as the world began to unravel around me, the brilliance of the overhead lights blurring into dazzling streaks of white and gold. My breath quickened, each inhalation fueled by both panic and an irrational urge to flee this nightmare. Are you okay? Stay with me. His voice cut through the chaos, grounded and steady, even as the room spun like a top teetering on the brink of disaster. I could barely respond, each word trapped somewhere in the muddled depths of my hazy mind. That I reached instinctively for the man who had cast himself in front of me, the very embodiment of bravery. The warmth of his hand found mine, squeezing tightly as if tethering us together against the impending storm. But the world around us shifted with a malevolence I had never envisioned, shadows elongating into monstrous forms, their whispers curling into my ears, warning me against trust. Don't close your eyes, he urged, his voice layered with an urgency that both terrified and soothed. I struggled to remain anchored as the echoes of the gunfire morphed into an ominous melody, growing louder until I feared it would consume us whole. Pain shot through my shoulder again, and I gasped, jolted back to reality just as I felt my body giving way. The realization struck me with an icy ferocity. The bullet wasn't just a trauma, it was a brutal reminder of the twisted game I had unwittingly stepped into. I focused on him, the man who had proven himself more than a mere playboy but a protector caught in an unyielding bind of fate. Get back! He barked suddenly, his eyes exploding with unfiltered anguish as he momentarily loosened his grip on me to fend off an approaching figure. I felt his presence waver, suspended in time, every ounce of my fear clashing against a desperate need to return to him. That I yearned to shout, to scream and tell him to run, remove himself from this hell where danger clung to the air like poisonous gas. But the thought of losing him made my chest constrict painfully. Instead, I forced out a weak, faint cry, "Don't leave me. I want tea." He turned back with fierce determination, his eyes scanning frantically for a way out, as a burst of adrenaline flooded his veins. "Stay behind me, and whatever happens, don't look away." The words ignited a flicker of resolve within me, bolstering my spirit even as shadows crept further into the periphery of the room. I gathered my focus once more, feeling the heavy weight of the current moment push against my chest, yet a meek glimmer of hope sparked within. In the midst of chaos, I thought of my world before everything unraveled, the mundane mornings, the laughter shared over coffee, and how the promise of that simple existence seemed miles away. But if I could just make it through this, I would fight tooth and nail to grab hold of it again. Without warning, a loud crash erupted from the far wall, the door splintering beneath the pressure of another wave of intruders. My heart raced in tandem with the urgency spiraling through every fiber of my being. It was only a matter of seconds before they overwhelmed us, lost in the chaos that was beginning to feel all too familiar. "No!" I shouted, suddenly fueled by an instinct to protect him in return. "We can't just sit here." I began to pull away from his grasp, driven by a sense of empowerment. I needed to fight too. "Are you crazy?" he barked, refusing to release me as he pulled me closer. "You're not ready for this, trust me." But the word trust felt like thorns in my throat, coiling with every ounce of doubt she had sown into my heart. "What if we could find a way? Together?" "Please," I insisted, ripping through the knots of fear as much as I could summon. "We have to try." He paused, the realization washing over his features like a distant wave. Maybe I was more than just a damsel in distress, and maybe, just maybe, this was our best chance. "Fine," he relented, breathless and unmistakably vulnerable. "But we do this together." Before I could respond, gunfire blasted through the air again. A chilling reminder of our pressing reality. The man surged forward, ushering me behind him just as chaos erupted. It was a blur of movement, a barrage of voices and twisted bodies, the echo of collective desperation pervading every corner we fled toward. As we approached an exit, a darting figure intersected our path, a face I had never expected to see. "Get down!" The voice barked, urgency electrifying the air around us as two more figures appeared behind it, their expressions mirroring mine, a cocktail of gorgeous urgency and terrifying familiarity. From another realm of our shattered world emerged someone I had once trusted implicitly, now a ghost of hope against the darkness. But as I locked eyes with them, I felt the final threads of my emotional fabric fray, a dawning realization creeping closer, the truth of what lay ahead stretching beneath the weight of what had already been stolen from me. "Follow me." My heart pounded as the unexpected figure extended their hand, layered with an invitation to escape, a promise wrapped in layers of uncertainty, pulling me from the warmth of the man I fought so valiantly to protect. As I staggered toward the door, forced back into a choice of trust and betrayal, another shot rang out, a split-second decision hanging heavy, vibrant in its promise of hope and dread. Strained breaths echoed in the air, and I knew that choosing to follow could lead to salvation, or a pitfall too dark to fathom. In that final decisive moment, reality twisted once again as I stood on the precipice of everything I had fought to protect. But fate had a different plan altogether, one that was about to unveil a truth far more staggering than I had ever expected. All I could do was dive into the unknown with the remnant of strength that remained, knowing this would change everything, the life I thought I understood swirling off into the shadows behind me. The moment I made my choice felt like plunging into an abyss, every heartbeat a desperate echo against the walls of uncertainty. I hesitated, the world around me a blur as I tried to discern the weight of my options. The man, the protector I had fought to stand beside, now seemed like a distant memory, replaced by the shadow of someone I once called friend. In the cacophony of chaos, I grappled with both fear and an inexplicable pull toward the stranger calling for my escape. "Wait!" His voice rang out, slicing through the tumult. "Don't go!" I felt his grasp tighten around my wrist, urging me back toward him, grounding me in our shared fight. Just as my feet shifted, uncertain and confused, I caught a flash of determination igniting within his eyes, a fierce fight still burning. The magnetic pull between us throbbed, tugging at my heart far deeper than rational thought could explain. Behind me, the figure who had beckoned me away remained poised, fiery and formidable. "You trust him?" they yelled, defiance rising in each syllable, the weight of this choice threatening to crush me. It was a truth I hadn't been ready to confront. Who could I genuinely trust in this twisted labyrinth of deception? "This is not the time," I gasped, torn between loyalty and survival. Adrenaline coursed through my veins, electrifying the air, making it almost palpable. Every second felt like an eternity as time distorted, wrapped in the urgent need to escape and a heart that longed to understand. "Please," he implored, desperation cloaked in strength. "We don't have to fight alone. We can still make it if you just trust me." But doubt gnawed at me, memories of past betrayals flooding back in unruly waves. I couldn't shake the recollection of shared laughter warped by later truths, the faces of those who had let me down creeping into my mind as reminders of misplaced faith. Yet here I was, poised against an unseen hand that was willing to take me out of this maelstrom. Could this ghost from my past be the key to surviving the peril we faced, or merely another deception cloaked as savior? I don't know, I stammered, glancing between the two worlds I had been thrust into, torn between trust and betrayal, between safety and loyalty. "Together." The man's voice surged with conviction. "I'll protect you, but you must let me. If we split up now, we're more vulnerable." The intensity of his gaze anchored me, reminding me of the essence of his unwavering spirit. A flicker of hope ignited within me, radiant amidst the darkness that threatened to engulf us. Perhaps trusting him meant more than just following, perhaps it meant digging deep within myself to rewrite the narrative I had allowed to chain me. I had always been one to flinch, to retreat behind walls of self-preservation. But in this moment, I felt the chains loosening, the dawning realization that my choices could fortify those walls, or forge new paths through their remnants. "Together," I whispered, the words wrapping around my resolve like a comforting embrace. But the air crackled with energy, and the chaos escalated, the pounding footsteps of our pursuers growing ever closer. The moment my conviction solidified, I decided to stay with him, piecing together the remnants of my courage. It was this choice, however improbable, that would shape our futures, determining whether our ties would bind us in hopelessness or a race toward hope. His hand enveloped mine, and as he gestured for me to follow, the weight of fleeting time propelled us forward. We dove deeper into the shadows of the corridor, our bodies entwined in an instinctive dance of survival, the maelstrom swirling, voices mingling in a symphony of urgency behind us. "Don't look back," he urged, his breath mingling with the tension that hung palpably between us. Just ahead, a passage opened, adorned with glimpses of blue light peeking from around the corner, a stark contrast against the oppressive gloom. Hope began to weave its way into my heart, but it was then that a chilling realization gripped me as I recognized the outline of another figure blocking our path. "Stop right there." The voice was familiar, laced with authority. My heart plummeted as I froze, one foot poised to step into uncertainty, the other tethered to a reality that threatened to shatter every fragile hope we had begun to build. "Don't!" I gasped, recognizing the man standing there. "Please!" The desperation flooded my voice, not just for my own sake but for the fierce protector beside me who had become a lifeline against the unrelenting tide of despair. But the possible vaporization of our fragile alliance loomed overhead like an ominous cloud, and with every passing second, I could feel threads pulling taut, threatening to sever the very bond we had begun forging. As the man facing us hesitated, the decision loomed vast and heavy, my future hinging on the precipice of a heartbreaking sacrifice. Would I lean into this possibility, or would I sever the only remaining thread that tethered me to hope? Time froze, suspended in that delicate moment, and as the first hint of movement stirred, the world teetered on the brink of breaking. Whether it would be me, or the impossible hope blooming between us, was yet to be determined. The air throbbed with tension as time stretched, an agonizing dance of uncertainty and dread. My heart raced in synchrony with my thoughts, each beat like a desperate whisper urging me to act. The familiar figure standing in front of us was caught between his duty and the unmistakable pain hidden deep in his eyes. I desperately sought a way to navigate the impending storm unfurling around us. A chance for redemption flickered, teasing me with its fragility. "Step aside." His voice was a thunderclap, echoing with authority. I clenched my teeth, torn between the choices I never wanted to face. "Please," I pleaded, my voice shaking with emotion, "it doesn't have to be this way." The jagged edge of betrayal sliced through the air, and even as he stood before me, reminding me of past wounds, I couldn't deny the glimmer of humanity lurking behind his facade. This was the man who had once been a friend, a protector, but also a harbinger of hollow promises. Do you really think he has your back? The question slipped from his lips like poison, laced with doubt. You know how they operate, you can't trust him, you can't trust anyone. Silence hung heavy, pressing down against my chest, but there was a flicker of life within me, battling against the whisper of despair. I wanted to scream that I didn't want to fight, that the scars of war had long left me tired, yet here I stood, arms wrapped around hope's delicate threads, every emotion threatening to unravel. Move! My protector urged, squeezing my hand tighter, his resolve steadied by the fire burning between us. The two opposing forces felt like they were collapsing inward, a swirling vortex of loyalties and fears that could consume everything in its path, but faced with a past I couldn't ignore, a tendril of doubt crept in. Was I choosing the right man, the right path? How could I help him if I couldn't help myself? Yet, beneath the chaos, I sensed a new determination blooming in the corners of my heart, the courage to embrace vulnerability. Before I could voice my thoughts, a sudden commotion broke out behind us, clawing at the fabric of time that had felt so suspended moments before. The sound of pursuers rushing down the corridor crashed like waves against the shore, and in that defining instant, I knew. I had to make a choice, now or never. Listen, I implored, my voice threading through the tumult, as I turned my gaze to the man whom I still wished to believe in. I can't leave him. We can't let fear control us anymore. I want to trust you, but I need you to believe in us. Don't be a fool. He swung his arm, motioning to the corridor behind him. You think he will protect you? I can keep you safe if you just know. I interrupted, the declaration resonating through the air like a clarion call. You can't change what's already been done. This isn't just about safety, it's about choice. I am not a pawn in your game, and I refuse to believe I don't have the power to choose my own destiny. His eyes flickered for a moment, the familiar warmth seeping through the rigid lines of authority as he searched for understanding. A glimpse of the camaraderie we once shared flickered in the depths of his gaze, but just as quickly, it dimmed under the weight of the chaos surrounding us. Then choose wisely, he finally said, inching away yet clearly wrestling with his own confusion. While hope rippled across my heart, I cast a final glance toward the man beside me. What if I whispered, the thought trembling in the air, what if we stand together against him, against everything? And in that moment, as if the universe itself had decided to bend toward our need for connection, the light at the end of the passage flickered brighter and surged forth into an emerald glow. Now! My protector shouted, urgency wrapping around his tone like a lifeline, leaping forward into the light that offered both promise and danger. I felt the pull to follow him, fueled by shadows that fled from our defiance, but just as I stepped forward, ready to escape the familiar pangs of the past, I glanced back one last time at the man who had once been my ally, my friend. A new determination flickered in his expression, one of hope alongside a soul that bore its own scars. Before I could fully process it, a hand shot out from behind, gripping my arm like a vice, and a sharp pain shot through me as I was pulled back into the dying glow of trust that faded beneath the shadow of uncertainty. My breath caught in my throat, a chilling realization dawning upon me like the first light of dawn. It wasn't just a struggle for escape, it was a choice that could redefine who I was. The world lurched as I swung back toward the glow, but everything felt off balance. Fear erupted within as I faced both sides, knowing my choice bore weight beyond my understanding. And just then, as the final echoes of betrayal flitted past me like dimming stars, I grasped that my past wasn't merely haunting me, it was shaping my fate in ways I had yet to comprehend. Let go of me! I shouted, fear-wielding rage lighting the path to my heart. The figure holding my arm paused, uncertainty weaving itself into the unmistakable grasp of sacrifice that I in the cavern of emerging connections. I wasn't just standing between two worlds, I was ready to forge my own. Yet, before the light could swallow me whole, a heart-stopping revelation struck. An echoing whisper from deep within shattered the burgeoning connection around me. Your brother, he is not safe, the man behind me said, releasing me with a swift jolt of truth that hung in the air like a heavy shroud. Suddenly, everything I had wrought crumbled further beneath a weight more profound than my own decision, the harrowing knowledge that the battle was far from over. It was then that I understood, trusting either one could yield consequences that reached far beyond my own life, threatening the fragile pieces of someone I had thought long buried, and just like that, hope wavered beneath the burden of the unknown, leaving me standing at a precipice of choices yet to unfold, a world of shadows where survival intertwined with the risk of losing everything and the one still worth fighting for. The air was thick with unshed tears, a tension so palpable that I could taste the salt of my own swirling emotions. In that moment of stupefied clarity, the revelation from the man, the instinct that my brother's safety had been compromised, wrapped itself tightly around my heart like a noose, tightening inch by agonizing inch, with one foot still in the realm of light, the other teetering in a shadowy past I thought I had left behind. Uncertainty clawed at me, persistent and cruel. The jagged edges of betrayal and loyalty sharpened into twin daggers, each one poised ready to pierce my soul if I made the wrong choice. "Your brother, he's not safe." The man's voice echoed in my mind, each word fracturing the fragile resolve I had dared to build. I stood there, suspended between worlds, my breath shallow, the weight of the truth a suffocating presence. What if this was just another trick, another layer of deceit hiding behind the mask of compassion? Yet, deep down, a quiet instinct tugged at me, urging me to believe him. "Just tell me where he is." I finally managed to cry out, desperation strangling my words. I could feel my protector shift beside me, the warmth of his presence both a comfort and a stark reminder of the reality I was facing. The man who had once been my ally hesitated, his features etched with dark lines of regret and genuine concern as he wrestled with the answer. The undercurrents of his tension were palpable, beating like the frantic rhythm of my heart. Somewhere, buried beneath layers of betrayal, his intention flickered a spark of hope fighting for existence. "Trust is a risky game," he murmured, gaze dropping down the corridor, as if the answer lay hidden just beyond sight. "But if you want to save him, you must follow me." My heart raced, each beat a thunderous echo of the real stakes I was beginning to comprehend. Every cell in my body screamed for me to fight, to join the men in my life who both terrified and intrigued me. And yet, despite the chaos swirling around us, the thought of my brother simmering in danger fueled my resolve. I glanced at my protector, searching for some glimmer of hope in his eyes. "What if we can trust him?" I whispered, words fragile as glass. As if sensing my turmoil, he stepped closer, the heat of his body radiating reassurance that felt like a fistful of sun in the cold darkness encroaching upon us. "I can't promise you safety," he replied, his voice low, each word deliberate. "But together, we might stand a chance. We can't let him get what he wants. Please, believe in us." I searched his face, the weight of his gaze anchoring my spiraling thoughts, offering a lifeline as I teetered on the brink of decision. In his eyes, I saw a mirror reflecting my own fears, but also a flicker of courage that threatened to ignite into a blazing inferno. "Okay," I whispered, summoning the remnants of my strength. "Let us go." The path ahead remained shrouded in shadows, yet a thin beam of light beckoned me forward, urging me to uncover the truth for my brother's sake. I took a cautious step toward the man who had once betrayed me, feeling every fiber of my being recoiling at the risk, yet propelled forward by an unseen force drawn from love. But before I could move, the air around us crackled with urgency. The sound of footsteps echoed ominously down the corridor, and my heart plummeted as the light flickered, leaving us shrouded in twilight. A sudden realization crashed into my thoughts like a thunderbolt. Every second counted, and our window for escape was closing rapidly. "Go! Now!" The man shouted, urgency threading through his voice as he ushered me and my protector away from the light, toward the safety of uncertainty. We dashed down the hallway, adrenaline flooding my veins, the suspense thickening around us like a leathered trap. My breath hitched as we collided with the truth like blindfolded players in a cruel game. We faced our fate with heartbeats loud enough to drown out reason, but then, through the chaos, the unexpected glimmer of kindness emerged. A woman emerged from the shadows, her presence an oasis amid the storm. She was familiar, an ally from the past, one I had never wanted to face again yet feared would be engulfed by the same darkness we all faced. "I can help you," she pressed, her eyes glossed with sincerity, desperation rippling beneath the surface of her poised exterior. "I know where he is." We can end this, all of it, for good. My heart flipped, the world around me tilting dangerously. Here was the bridge between salvation and damnation, every moment a perilous balance. The hope blossoming within me collided with the bitter specter of doubt, and I struggled to breathe as my mind raced, grappling with the gravity of everything at stake. Before I could respond, the furious pounding of footsteps grew louder, closer, an unrelenting rhythm that heralded the approach of looming malevolence. With urgency pressing down upon us, I felt the ground shift beneath my feet, the past swirling back like a tempest, desperate to ensnare me once more. "Come with me if you want to save him," she implored, her voice a silken thread woven into the fabric of my fear. A decision demanded to be made, and I knew it would change everything. As I grasped the truth of my path, another revelation broke through the shadows, a heartbeat fleetingly familiar in the distance. My brother. The thought ignited a fire brighter than the darkness threatening to engulf us, laying bare the emotional battleground I had not anticipated. But before I could process that burgeoning hope, the corridor exploded with light, and silhouettes emerged like wolves ready to catch their prey. In that instant, a rush of adrenaline pounded through me, drowning out all reason. A fight for fidelity, a battle against fear, a heart unleashing its final plea. "Let us go together," I breathed, tears spilling down my cheeks as I stumbled forward, the choice clear but shadowed beneath a heavy shroud. The future hung precariously in the air, and the world shifted anew, caught in the delicate balance between despair and the audacity to hope. As the shadows threatened to engulf us, my heart thundered with the truth of what lay ahead, a confrontation born of blood and ink, a fight for the love that could either save us or shatter us completely. The air crackled with tension as the advancing figures lit up the corridor, their menacing forms forcing each breath from my lungs, constricting my chest like a vice. I could feel the warmth of my protector's presence, a potent anchor against the onslaught of uncertainty, yet the weight of my decision loomed larger than life. "Run!" I shouted, my voice struggling against the cacophony of impending danger. As if responding to my urgency, the woman grasped my forearm with an iron grip, her dark eyes flaring with resolve. "This way," she urged, leading me deeper into the labyrinth of shadows. My protector hesitated, caught in the crosshairs of instinct and the instinctual duty to shield me at all costs. I shot him a desperate glance, my heart pleading for him to trust me just this once. "We have to follow her. It's our only chance," I implored, hoping my voice would cut through the turmoil of his doubts. With a reluctant nod, he fell in step beside me, our small unit of defiance coalescing once more. The woman surged ahead, guiding us through a maze of flickering lights and echoing dread, the breath of her past entwined with my own. The dichotomy of fear and hope swirled in tandem within me, a potent reminder of the stakes surrounding us. We dashed into a dimly lit room, the shadows spilling over us like ink blots, and for a moment, a semblance of safety encased us. I pressed my back against the cool, unyielding wall, my chest rising and falling in frantic cadence as adrenaline coursed through my veins. "What do you know? Where is he?" I demanded, urgency sharpening my voice. The woman's eyes glistened, brimming with an emotion I couldn't decipher: remorse, determination, or perhaps the weight of her own buried secrets. "Your brother is closer than you think." The echoing footsteps drew nearer, shaking me from the depths of her revelation. My thoughts raced, tethered between the pausing moment and the looming threat. The air thickened as we exchanged worried glances, every heartbeat translating the growing dread into a visceral anxiety. "Just tell me," I urged, desperation driving me. "He's my brother. I'll do anything to save him." The weight of my words hung heavy, charging the air around us with a silent promise. I would face any trial, endure any pain if it meant bringing him back. Suddenly, the woman's resolve faltered as shadows wrapped themselves tighter around her features. "He's not just missing," she began, her voice quivering. "He's involved in something dangerous, something deeper than any of us realized. Every choice leads to devastation." My heart plummeted at the revelation, leaving a pit of despair pooling within me. "What do you mean?" The syllables escaped my lips as a fragile whisper, trembling under the weight of her words. "Someone close to him is manipulating everything, a puppet master pulling threads, and your brother he's caught in the middle." You need to understand the gravity of the situation. Her eyes bore into mine, the urgency behind them amplifying the gravity of her confession. No! I exclaimed, shaking my head. The relentless weight of reality threatened to crush the fragile fragments of hope I had clung to. You're wrong. He's not a part of this. He doesn't, but the pounding footsteps surged closer, a foreboding reminder that time slipped through my fingers like sand. You need to listen to me, she urged, her voice rising above the encroaching darkness. The people after you and your brother, they'll stop at nothing. You want to save him? You need to understand the enemy first. We can't keep running blindly. The truth of her words descended upon me, heavy and suffocating. Fear twisted my gut as a horrifying realization crept in. My brother had been entangled in a game I knew nothing about, and I had plunged into its depths with reckless abandon. The shadows of uncertainty licked at my resolve, threatening to extinguish the flickering hope that had driven me this far. Where do we go from here? My protector asked, his voice steadying my fragile heart like the beat of a war drum. The question hovered, laden with an urgency that resonated in the depths of my being. We can try to reach the enclave, she suggested, her voice a tether pulling me closer to the precipice of possibility. It's a safe point in this chaos where people who want to help, who know the truth, gather. But you must trust me, all of you. The sounds of pursuit drew nearer still, a relentless crescendo bearing down upon us. My heart raced, driven by an instinct fueled by fear and fierce love for my brother. Let us go, I cried, fear igniting a spark of conviction within me. As we plunged into the shadows once more, the woman leading the charge, I could feel the weight of my choice bearing down. Every step was fraught with uncertainty, every breath a reminder of the fragility of hope. The expanse of the unknown lay before us, treacherous yet exhilarating, echoing the thin line we tread between safety and destruction. But just as we exchanged glances of fierce determination, an inexplicable sound pierced the air, a low, cacophonous crackle that rattled our very bones. In an instant, the world spun around me, reality blurring as light split the darkness, illuminating a figure that felt hauntingly familiar. My heart raced as realization struck a face I had almost forgotten, one that had once been a source of comfort but now drew an icy wave of fear deep into my chest. The figure stepped forward, revealing a smirk that felt painted with deception. The very essence of betrayal rippled in the air. I didn't think you'd go this far, sister, he taunted, voice smooth as silk yet drenched in poison. But you always were drawn to danger. Let us see how far you're willing to go to save him. A chill sank into my bones, freezing me in place as the weight of his words tumbled into the void of my mind, a new challenge, a catastrophic twist in a tale that had already blurred lines of loyalty and betrayal. Desperation clawed at me, the cliffhanger of my fate a gaping maw ready to swallow me whole, leaving only echoes of the choices yet to be made. The chaos around me began to fade into a distant murmur, the world narrowing to the visage of the man I had once thought invincible. My brother stood before me, a specter from beyond the shadows, woven deeply into the fabric of my fears. His eyes, darkened by the weight of secrets and regrets, locked onto mine like an anchor, pulling me under the heavy tide of emotion that rose within me. Why? The single word emerged from my lips like a desperate breath, underlying the trembling saga unfolding between us. Why did you do this? My voice quivered, a mixture of anger and heartbreak threading through each syllable as I stepped closer, determined to bridge the gap carved by secrets and time. What did you think you'd find here? He mocked, the smile on his lips betraying nothing but the venom grazing every syllable. You think you can save me? That you can save anyone? But beneath that bravado, I glimpsed the flickering light of fear, of a brother who had managed to bury the truth beneath layers of deception. I came here to save you, I spoke, anger simmering just beneath the surface. And I'll fight for you, no matter what. My heart pulsed defiantly in my chest, the resolute spark of familial love sparking against the darkness encroaching upon us. It felt like a rudimentary chord of hope that resided in the stark contrast between our realities, a delicate tether binding our fates. The shadows danced around us, pressing in with the weight of unspoken choices. I turned to see the woman who had once been my ally, her expression conveying both understanding and caution, a silent reflection of the battlefield we faced against the threat of betrayal from my own flesh and blood. "Please," I implored my brother, "let me help you. We're family. We can confront this together." Each word dripped with vulnerability as I tried to slice through the web of secrets that bound him. He shook his head, frustration pulsing visibly through his clenched fists. "Family?" he spat. "You've always wanted to play the hero, haven't you? But you're standing on a few fragile threads, oblivious to the depth of the chaos. Tell me," I begged, desperation bleeding into my voice. "Who's pulling your strings? What have you done?" Each question felt like a dagger being thrust deeper into an already raw wound, but it was a wound I was willing to endure if it meant tearing back the curtain that veiled the truth. "It's complicated," he muttered finally, eyes darting away from my unwavering gaze. "I got involved in something I couldn't control. They're too powerful, and if I don't follow the plan," he swallowed hard, "they will destroy everything we've ever known." "Then let us turn this around," I urged, stepping closer until I was just inches from him. "We can rework this. You don't have to follow their orders. We can take them down together." The silence unspooled like a fragile thread, and I could feel the conflict reeling within him. Was there still a chance he could choose the family bond over the darkness that tethered him? But then his gaze shifted, darkening with an emotion I couldn't decipher. "You don't understand the mess I'm in. You're only digging your grave deeper by being here." His voice was laden with a weary acceptance that made my heart ache. "Maybe it's time you got out," I shot back. "Don't you realize staying with them only further entwines you in their web?" A shadow of guilt crossed his features, yet the anger rolled off him, the tension vibrating against the pallid walls. "You think it's that simple? When you dive into the chaos, there are consequences. I can't come back from this. You need to leave, it's not safe for you." In that moment, the truth cut deep. He was grappling with demons much older and darker than I'd ever anticipated, and standing there, I realized suddenly that what lay ahead could shatter us, but I was not willing to abandon him any more than I was willing to let go of hope. "You're wrong," I whispered fiercely, my heart spiraling with raw emotions. "I know you're still in there. I believe in you." Each word dripped with conviction, defiance surging in my soul. Against the shadows warping the truth of who he was, yet, before he could respond, the shadows thickened, voices rising into a crescendo that rippled through the air like a thunderous storm. "They've found us," the woman exclaimed, urgency laced in her voice as she turned toward the door just moments before it exploded inward, a chaotic rush of forces surging into the space. "Go!" my brother shouted, but before I could move, the weight of anguish reflected in his eyes froze me in place. The world around us erupted into chaos as the figures surged through, each of them cloaked in darkness, chaos incarnate as they brandished weapons. "Get her!" one of them bellowed, lunging towards me. But even as the realization struck, my protector surged forward, stepping in front of me with an instinctive roar, his body blocking what fate had tried to tear apart once more. In that moment, when time stood still, I saw everything flash before me, choices I had made, races I had run, the unbreakable bond of family obscured by tangled threads of betrayal. And yet, beneath it all, I felt an undeniable light, shimmering like a beacon within me, reminding me that in the heart of every storm, there existed a glimmer of hope. With every ounce of strength I had left, I pushed forward, joining the fight. We were no longer merely children caught in varying shades of chaos, we were warriors of our own fates, casting shadows and light in equal measure, refusing to back down in the pursuit of redemption and truth. But just as the commotion created a swirling tempest around us, in a breathtaking climax of raw emotion, I caught my brother's eye again, silently imploring him to join us. "It's you or them," I shouted, drowning out the noise that swirled surroundings. "You have the power to change this. Together, we can confront them." Time felt like it had stretched into eternity, a heart-wrenching pause filled with the weight of my plea. What I saw reflected in his haunted eyes shone brighter than the chaos around us, revealing a glimpse of the brother I once knew beneath the ruins of regret. The very fibers of this moment seemed to weave themselves back together, bridging an unbreakable bond forged through years of love and memories we shared, and at that moment, clarity sliced through the heavy dread. "I forgive you," I cried, helplessly surrendered to the truth, the words exploding in the air like a firework's light, illuminating the shadows. "Whatever it is, we can face it. Just come back to me." His expression twisted, revealing the raw tumult swirling beneath his surface. Maybe my words sank into his core, shattering the chains that had been linking him to this oppressive darkness. He whispered, the guilt blanketed by a flicker of hope that gleamed through the encroaching shadows. It felt monumental, even amidst the brewing chaos surrounding us. Suddenly, decisions pressed upon us like a hammer driving into an anvil, life shattering into fragments that would never return to their original form. With each heartbeat echoing the urgency, we stood together against the tide of darkness drawing nearer, and everything crystallized: love, acceptance, a bond that would prove unbreakable before an unseen thread. "Let us fight," he finally said, the tension escaping as a glimmer of steely resolve forged between us, and as he reclaimed his ground against the shadows, I felt the pulse of hope ignite once more. Death and chaos surrounded us, but in that fleeting moment of vulnerability, I understood this was not just about rescue, it was about rekindling faith in each other. And together, we broke free from the chains of the past, standing tall amidst the whispers of shadows as we forged our path not just into escape, but into the beginning of something new. As the world crashed in around us, I took my brother's hand tightly in mine, and without a backward glance, we stepped forward into the chaos together, no longer haunted by fear, but buoyed by a fierce brand of love that could weather any storm. In the embrace of every uncertainty, we became invincible, a union emblazed with trust, courage, and the promise that, no matter what, we would never again stand alone. And that ultimate realization felt like stepping into the light, where even the fiercest chaos could lead us home. Love is the ultimate reckoning, the fiery force that turned chaos into warmth, and as we dove deeper into the tempest, I thought that maybe this was where we were meant to be together, steadfast against the storm, blazing fiercely into the unknown. And sometimes, it's not the conclusion of a story that leads to resolve, but the paths we learn to forge together, becoming the very strength we never realized existed within us.